You spoke about the tariff hike, electricity tariff hike.
Yes.
I'm hearing news today that it's being postponed till next year.
City of Lagos, did I say it yesterday? I am a prophet.
Hear the news and tell us your views.
Congratulations once again to Liverpool, despite the disastrous outing they had tonight.
Your number one station for talk.
The WHO give a guideline for organizations,
Right.
yes, to implement to reduce the spread of coronavirus in your group, in your companies. Here in N Group, we've done
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Lagos, we've taken you around the world in 2 minutes and brought you back on Hard Facts on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk about Nigeria's budget, shall we? Let's talk about Nigeria's budget. How? And that's the question that was on my mind most of the weekend, to be very, very honest with you. How transparent, efficient, and viable is the 2021 budget? Here's today's big hard fact. According to BudgIT, the 2021 federal budget was 316. It had 316 duplicated projects worth 39.5 billion naira. The 2021 federal budget has 316 duplicated projects worth 39.5 billion naira. Budget released a report that analyzed that budget last week. And there's been a lot of talk about that because, come on, 40 billion naira going into duplicated projects, that's a big deal. But the report goes into a lot more detail, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Hopefully, joining us is the founder of BudgIT, Olusegun Onigbinde. We're trying to reach him on Skype. We've been calling, but it doesn't seem to be working for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on with that, but we will get him to join us on the phone, right? We will get him to join us as soon as he can. But yeah, like I was saying, last week they released this report, and in this report we had 316 duplicated projects worth 39.5 billion. Lagos, I want to hear from you on this story. What do you think about all the duplicated projects in the budget? Debt servicing is starting to crowd out spending, for instance. In this budget, it's estimated at 3.3 trillion naira, which is 41.63% of the estimated federal revenue of 7.99 trillion. Already there are rules that place a cap on borrowing, right? So when Shaun joins us, I'll be asking what these rules are and if these rules have been observed. Shaun, are you here yet? Hello, Shaun.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm here.
Okay, but
Hello.
we can't see you. I don't
Hear
think
me?
your video is on. Yes, I can hear you, but your video isn't on.
Okay, I'll put it on in a second. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's always good to have you here.
It's a pleasure being here today. It's a pleasure to always talk about the budget with you. Yeah.
Now, I was talking about debt servicing starting to crowd out spending. And in this budget, it's estimated at 3.3 trillion naira, which is 41.63% of the estimated federal revenue of 7.99 trillion naira. Already there are rules that place a cap on borrowing. That's the thing I was saying before you joined us. What are these rules? Do you think these rules have been observed?
Yeah, so thank you very much. I'm happy that we're able to bring the Nigerian budget to the mainstream again and make sure that people can talk effectively about it. The first thing we've observed with the Nigerian budget is we have not put it to purpose. We have not defined a grand statement to say that this is why we are giving this to education, or why we're giving this to health, or why we're giving this to agriculture. We just put a whole long list of items in the budget, and we just expect that we will just parcel them out in contracts. So you can't even see a defining theme around the Nigerian budget, which is always a problem, because the budget should be drawn from a statement of planning. There should be something that say we want to reduce literacy, increase literacy by 50% improve numeracy by this amount. We want to expand agricultural support by this percent. And that should be like the guiding motive for the budget. But what we have seen so far is that we've not seen like a clear guideline to say this is what defines the budget. That's a bigger problem. And when you have no rules around what's the purpose of the budget, you find that several items can be there. We found, like what you was mentioning, duplicates of projects. We found significant number of that happen in the budget. We found fragmentation of projects too. So many projects, 19,000 capital projects in the budget.
Yeah, but I was talking about the rule that places a cap on borrowing for this project, right? Are there rules? What are these rules? Have these rules been observed?
So there are rules around borrowing. Some that the Fiscal Responsibility Act has created, some that we've created as some form of norms. So we set up like our deficit to GDP, our fiscal deficit to GDP should be around 3%. We have not breached that. We set a rule to, maybe I want to say we won't want our debt to GDP be more than 40%. We have not breached that. In broader context, Nigeria's debt is not much. And I mean in context, and I'm using my words very carefully here, because I mean debt to GDP, which means that the size of your economy, debts that the public sector carries compared that to GDP is significantly not low compared to other countries like most of other developed countries. But the problem is our revenue is also so incredibly small. So it's like when you believe that you are big, you see yourself as a big person or a big man. I have this funny joke to say Nigeria is like an Harvard graduate that picked up a job at Oshodi Motor Park. You're big. We know you're big. We know you are the largest economy in Africa, but we can't see that. We don't see it in your pockets. We can't see the money. We can't see the revenue. So when your debt to GDP, that means at the size of your GDP, you're only able to milk 8% because our debt revenue to GDP is around 8%. So if you continue to borrow, you are going to keep crowding out opportunities to do other things because your revenue is very, very small. That's the big problem that Nigeria keeps facing. And that's why no matter how much anybody looks at, your debt to GDP is small. It's a good story, but it's not the complete story. That's why we have to find a way to restrain our continuous borrowing. And recently, what we have seen the current government do is to rest on the CBN much more. The rule says you are not supposed to borrow more than 5% of your revenue. Or the CBN is not supposed to borrow 5% of the previous revenue as support. That's what the CBN Act says. But we've seen that has been significantly breached, and we have had these ways and means and support from CBN, and now you can't even set the line between the independence of the CBN and the support that it's supposed to provide. So those are the kind of things, and that's why you see that we're printing money, which is as simple as ABC. We're printing money to support the federal government. And in a situation like that, that when you print money without an asset backing, it leads to inflation within the environment. And that's why you can see a whole lot of things is happening around that space. We're not to confront our big issues.
Should our rules be updated to tie debt limits to revenue instead of GDP?
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do much more, because now we're preaching. The average country, IMF says you don't need to go beyond 35% debt to GDP, debt to revenue, debt service to revenue. Now we are around 80%. That means out of 100 naira you make, you spend 18 naira to service debt. And if you look at it, just revenue is not more than, it's always around 4 trillion naira, 4.5 at most a year. Now debt service is around 2.8 trillion, nearing 3 trillion this year, definitely. Then you have salaries of almost 2.3 or 2.4 trillion. So you're already on 5.4 trillion. You have not even talked about overheads. You have not talked about statutory transfers. You have not talked about other service-wide votes, like you're paying amnesty, you're doing all these cash social investment program and the rest. So we can't continue at this rate. We have to be able to set the limit that this should be the cap for our debt to revenue, debt service to revenue. It's becoming a big challenge, and it's simple. We need to expand revenue. Also, we need to also be efficient with our expenditure. We are facing two problems here. We have a revenue problem. We also have an expenditure efficiency problem. That means we make too little. And after we've made too little and we've borrowed so much, we're even not still optimizing how we are spending that money. So it's a double jeopardy, and we need to significantly fix this.
All right, then. I want to bring you back to a point you raised earlier about the CBN. They've loaned over 9 trillion naira to the federal government to fund budgets. CBN calls it overdrafts. Your report calls this printing money. What are the possible effects of this?
I mean, you see that CBN will say it's overdrafted. The federal government is going to pay back, and they're going to pay back at an interest rate, but that also compounds the whole debt service thing. The impact of this is on inflation, and it's also disincentivizing the revenue generation. If we know that the CBN is always going to stand as a backup, then why are we now on the chase to expand revenues? We need to be a country that finds money, and be more efficient in tax collection, and be very, very conservative when it comes to tax waivers and the rest. And we've seen the effects already. We've seen that inflation has refused to slow down, even though a lot of people blame that on food inflation. We're seeing that the currency itself has been shaky, which means that if you keep pumping so much naira into circulation and there is no corresponding dollars on the other leg, you would not have enough money. You just got your currency under continuous threat. So that's what we're going to keep facing. And it's just the unraveling of Nigerian economy. We didn't speak about printing money 5-6 years ago, 10 years ago. We didn't talk about debt service in 80-90%, 10 years ago. We didn't talk about where we have the revenue recurrent expenditure crowding out significantly. We didn't think about that. Now, those threats now are here. At the point TBN will not be able to provide our buffer anymore if we continue this way. At the point we will not be able to borrow money because people now go look at our debt to GDP, they will also now look at our revenue size to pay back. And by the time we put all of this all together, we are working towards the situation of bedlam. We're working towards crisis. Yeah.
We've heard that the CBN say that these drafts are being restructured to 10-year debt, and I wonder what you think the effect of this will be on the federal government's annual debt servicing numbers. How much of an effect will this have on the federal government's annual debt servicing numbers?
No, I feel that you cannot expand illegality, and now want to put a burden on the people. And when I hear that, it breaks my heart, because the law is the law. The law that says the CBN should not provide more than 5% support to the federal government. It's a standing law around that, and so there's a purpose why that is there, to protect the independence of the CBN. So for also to ensure that Nigeria pursues fiscal sustainability. And previous government that stood by that rule, they kept to that rule. I mean, the whole fiscal conservatism under Goodluck Jonathan, they kept by that rule. They were not printing money. The CBN was not doing some outside support beyond its normal intervention programs. Now, when you now have the CBN now says we're going to take debt, that we are not certain we're committed to capital projects, that we are not certain was put into investment. The whole of those debts, you can't say we invested them in roads, in schools, in hospitals, things that will pay back in the long run. And we just continue to use those debts to expand inefficiencies on a continuous basis. And now you want to now put the burden on future generation. I mean, that for me is preposterous. It's ridiculous. It's something that should not stand in any way. And I know we've been speaking to some other organizations like SERAP to say, what's the legality of all of this? If the CBN breaches its own rules to provide support to the federal government, why should that burden now be upon Nigerians? Because government comes, government goes. Nigeria is going to remain, and these people are going to be able to bear this brunt going forward. The federal government, I've not seen any big push from the federal government to significantly ration its recurrent expenditure. This recurrent expenditure of the federal government has grown, almost doubled the last 5 years. I've not seen any push to say we're going to be more efficient, like brutally efficient in our capital expenditure because we're going to clean up the procurement system. We're going to ensure that our audit process within the ministries are tighter. We didn't do all of this. We didn't push efficiency. Now we continue to spend as if we had the money because the CBN can provide, that short-term support. Now we are now saying we should now put the debt burden on Nigerians. I find that very, very ridiculous. And I wish Nigerians could have a wider number of Nigerians could have a clear understanding of what I'm trying to put across here, that we are now burdening the people with the inefficiency of jobs, because debt should be tied mainly to self-liquidating projects. Now, if you build Lagos by the express road and you build it on debt, and you put a toll gate, 3 tolls on that road, and you are tolling that road, or you take debt to build a rail between Ibadan to from Lagos to Abuja, then you put a toll on that road, or you take debt to invest in a tractor, to buy tractors, and you are mechanizing agriculture, ensuring that yields and taxes can be raised. Now, that's a good use of debt. But if you're using debt to pay salaries, or you're using debt to oil the whole paraphernalia of job, I mean, it's a can kick for future generation. It's just extremely wrong use of resources, and I think that's what we have done here. You can't say this is the support the CBN government. The support from the CBN was tied to. So why should the body not come back to Nigerians? It's something I found very, very unlawful, and personally I find it extremely illegal.
Lagos, let's talk, shall we? We want to hear from you. What do you think about all the duplicated projects in the budget? What do you think about the debt situation? What do you think about this conversation that Seun Oniminde and I are having on Hard Facts today? 0700-993-993-993 0700-993-993-993 01465-7190. That's also the number you can call for women. 01465-7190. You can also share your thoughts via WhatsApp. WhatsApp is actually, no, don't share your thoughts via WhatsApp today. WhatsApp is not available. But you can share it on Facebook because we're streaming live there. Facebook Nigeria Info 99.3, YouTube Nigeria Info FM. You can watch and share your thoughts as we go along. Caller is our first caller. Caller is in Ilukbeju today. Hello, caller. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Nigerian revenue system is the major problem we are having. Revenue. In 2017, New York City in the U.S. budgeted $87.6 billion.
Okay.
Nigerian budget that time was 8.5 trillion naira, which is equivalent of 23 billion US dollars. How do you reconcile it? New York City is a local government in America. How do you reconcile this? And the whole of 200 million is what do you call it? 23 point something billion naira, billion dollars. How do you manage 23.6 billion US dollars in an economy like ours? I think the basic fact is that we should invest more. Why are we shying away from calling people from elsewhere to come and invest in Nigeria? Are we proud? Are we showing our pride? No, it shouldn't be. We need